This is a continuing part of the CXO Challenge by iTnews.com.au. I'm your host, Ry Crozier, Editor-in-Chief of IT News. On the show this week is Frances Waterford, the Chief Information Officer at Cancer Council New South Wales. We start out by talking about the IT structure of Australia's leading cancer charity, and we go from there. Please enjoy our conversation. Let's just start top line. If you could talk a little bit about the Cancer Council structure and how IT fits in. I understand you're working for the New South Wales organisation, but I was just wondering, how does IT look for the Cancer Council and how does it operate?
Yeah, so we work as a federated structure. So each state is autonomous. We share the brand and a few major fundraising events of the year, and we collaborate a great deal, but they are individual entities with their own boards, management structures, and technology stacks and strategies. So they are quite independent. I do meet with my peers from the other federations at least once a month, and we talk about what we're doing, and we do share ideas and approaches to things, but we do operate quite independently.
Okay. Does anything get shared across the technology stacks or everything is different and independently run?
Everything is different and independently run.
How big's the IT organisation for yourself?
It's pretty small, like we're a team of 15. So that's quite small considering the diversity of what we do as an organisation. I've got an operations team which covers service desk, infrastructure, network, that type of stuff. And then I've got an applications team who are very hands-on with probably about 8 core applications that we run, and then I guess a lighter touch for those secondary applications, which tend to be all software as a service applications. And then we've got some individual specialists in things like business analysis and security.
And I understand today we're going to be talking a little bit about the way that you've linked some of those sort of core operational systems together. Is that right?
Correct. That's exactly right. So what we've identified is that as a small, medium organization, there's some really good products out there that are very fit for purpose with functions that we carry out. And the best way for us to operate and at the lowest cost is to opt in for those niche software as a service applications, particularly in things like fundraising, point of sale for retail, etc. But of course, we need integrated processes that work across the organization. And so we needed an integration layer that allowed us to have those end-to-end integrated processes and the best efficiency and timeliness of information. And that's really what we did with the integration project.
At what point did you decide that you were going to, or that you needed to make some changes to the way that those applications talk to each other?
So I joined the organisation 2 years ago, and they had been on a major, I guess, transformation of systems and had implemented some really great products. It did like CRM and a billing solution, but there was pain points because of the lack of integration across the processes. And so that was a really key finding for me, and it was a very obvious opportunity to improve constituent experiences, but also employee experiences of working by creating that integration across systems.
Okay. And when did you start to look at that integration across the different systems?
To be honest, it was one of the first things I started working on. Just once I'd sort of done that first 100 days and identified the business strategy, the pain points, the priorities, it really stood out to me as the fundamental piece that was missing. And so I started working on that opportunity and the options that were available to us. And we did it right from the basics of, okay, which of the processes have got the biggest pain points? What are the options of the technology? We did an RFP. We went about it quite, I guess, textbook, if you like, in terms of running through a process of evaluating options and including the business in that evaluation, and selected Boomi. And then because we were really working in the space of our core business, we were looking at donations. So we could have looked at some smaller quick win type integrations, as a proof of concept. But that's not where the value was. The value was right in the middle of our core business around our constituents, how they register with us, how they make donations to us, how that information, how that's banked. It was right in that core. And so we decided just to really tackle the big opportunity. And with the business support, we did that.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit about the way that the integrations look, both from maybe a back-end perspective, but also from a front-facing perspective to the people that might be donors or other external parties that would interact with the Cancer Council?
Yeah, so we use partner organisations to provide those donation platforms in some cases, and also to acquire our customers and help us with customer acquisition. And they've got systems of their own that we utilise. And what we really wanted to do was make sure that we could use those great providers or applications that are in the market, because they've got very good solutions that are fit for purpose for the fundraising industry, pretty good price point. But we wanted all of that to integrate through to our CRM and our billing solutions, so that we could have that single view of customer. So people might participate in different channels, but we wanted to bring it all back to that single point of customer, so that when we're talking to our customers, we can see the richness of their relationship with us and give them a good customer experience, and take away what we were doing prior to the integration layer is people were facilitating that process. They were doing lots of downloading of spreadsheets, uploading into different systems, dealing with errors in formats and different things. So we wanted to take away that work, which was time consuming and not always accurate, and also not the greatest job in the world, automate that. And then we could get our people focused on talking to our constituents about how they support us, and making sure that we had really good, accurate, up-to-date information about them in all our interactions.
When a donor, for example, might interact with the Cancer Council, how often would they interact across multiple channels, for example?
Yeah, so the most common example probably is they might be a regular donor to us or participate in one of our annual campaigns, like the biggest morning tea. They might be host a morning tea and bank donation funds for us through a campaign like that. And they could also be a volunteer. So they might actually come into our office or work in one of our treatment centres as a volunteer. So it's really important that we recognise both sides of that relationship with them, and make sure that all that information comes together into one picture of that supporter.
Can you give me a sense of how you went about the actual integration work?
Yeah, so basically, how we went about doing that was looking at the pain points. Then we looked at the systems that are involved in the pain points, and we identified about 5 core ones. So then we looked at what the data architecture is that underpins those systems, and did a whole lot of work on data mapping and how that comes through. And then we had to make some technology choices around, would we use a subscription model where it was hosted on Boomy's cloud, or would we host it ourselves? We chose to go with Boomy's cloud. And then the work of actually building those connections based on the data map, and testing that and validating it and making sure that the data passes through appropriately. It's kind of it in a nutshell.
What does it look like now in terms of, I guess, the way that it was described in some of the material I saw was it's a single view of customer, which you've enabled. So how is that presented, I guess, to the people that are looking at that kind of information internally?
Yeah, so all of that information comes through to our CRM. So that's the core, that's where we've got our constituent and all of the information about them. So, the Boomi platform is effectively passing through registrations and donations, or information about volunteering, or even potentially if that person is a client and is a service recipient of ours, also comes through. And that means that all of our processes that we carry out, ultimately, CRM is the home, I guess, master for that information. And so when we're having a conversation with our supporter, our team can see the richness of our relationship with that person. And they've got that really good visibility, so they're not missing something key about them.
One of the things that was mentioned was that you're potentially doing some preparatory work or some more work around master data management
Yeah.
that may also involve Boomi. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because you've obviously just mentioned the CRM is treated as kind of the single source, I guess, of truth for business information from that context. How is that different with the
with the
work that you're
hub.
undertaking on the master data management side of things?
Yeah, so that's actually live now. We went live with that in
Okay.
December. Yeah, so that was really good. And what that allows us to do is what we call match and merge. So it allows us that it gives more opportunity to make sure that we match someone to their existing record fundamentally, so that we're not missing that connection with people. The really basic example, it's a little bit more complex than this, is the Fran versus Frances, where you might choose different spelling of your name, or it might even be my maiden name instead of my married name, or, those kinds of things. And Master Data Hub allows us to look at some more complex criteria to make sure that we're always matching you to the identity in our CRM.
Yeah, so it's looking for specific information that might tie multiple profiles back to a single profile,
Yeah,
which will help you
exactly.
better to understand all the interactions that you might have with that person or that
Exactly.
account.
Yeah, exactly. And the word we use is constituent. So we talk about them as a constituent and the different roles they have, be it supporter or client or volunteer, for example.
Now, something else that was mentioned was that the organization is both sort of digital and cloud first. How much of that played out in terms of the work you've done with Boomi versus how much was already sort of ongoing or going on of that journey before you sort of embarked on this
Yeah, look,
particular work?
there was definitely a move to digital experiences for all of our services well before this started. But what Boomi did was allow us to make those better digital experiences, I suppose, and make our employees' job of managing end-to-end processes of the digital experiences better. That's really fundamentally. And I guess probably better bring together some of the non-digital interactions with the digital interactions and just bring that all together. That's really fundamentally what it allowed us to do. But yeah, our digital was a strategy well before we embarked on Boomi, but this is enabler of that being an effective process. And certainly we're really glad that we were well underway when digital became so critical with COVID.
Mm. At the point that you're at now, how does the work that you're doing around digital translate in terms of the donation side of the organization? So I imagine they're still mostly focused on digital fundraising events compared to physical, although Australia is comparatively better off than other countries in terms of being able to move around reasonably
Yeah,
and hold some
exactly.
sort of events.
For the last 12 months, everything was a digital event. Had to definitely turn some events that were almost exclusively physical. And the example of that's called Relay for Life. So we carry out the community-based events, Relay for Life. So all of those after the last 12 months have been digital instead of in-person community events.
How has that changed the service you have to provide to the business as an IT organization?
It just means that those processes working well is just more important than ever. I think we were really fortunate, I would say, as an organisation that we had done so much transformation of our systems. It was 2 busy weeks, I think, to get us all remote working and supporting fundraising for promoting their digital events, but everything was in place. There was nothing we were going, wow, we need to go and buy X technology to make this work. We had all the building blocks, and most of it was really just about scale. So, for example, the number of people using our remote connect service was going to be 4 times what it was under ordinary circumstances. So we just needed to make sure that we had capacity and licensing to deal with that. But it was relatively in place and ready to go.
What's the next step for the organization, and particularly from an IT standpoint? Where are you looking at where there might be opportunities, for example?
Yeah, so we've got a multi-year roadmap of opportunities to extend the solution. The next place we're going to is within our supporter unit, which supports people experiencing cancer and provides information and support services to them. So we're really extending what we've done with the fundraising area into some more digital experiences and much more straight through processes with that team. and certainly moving from a service-centric approach to how they deliver services to a client-centric approach. So that's a major project that we're going to do this year. Cyber is super important as well. So making sure that we continue to meet the elevating challenges around cybersecurity. So that's going to be an important area for us. We're also doing some work with our research division and modernising some of the tools that they use around research, data analytics, and we'll also work with the fundraising division much more around their whole marketing processes and making that integrate into this platform as well. So they're probably the top 4 or 5 for the year.
Just to go to one segment of that, the straight through processing side of things, what impact do you see that having on that particular business unit and more broadly?
Reach. So for those guys, it's really about servicing more clients with the services we have. So they provide counselling and pro bono professional advice to people who are experiencing cancer. And the aim is to be able to reach more clients with those services.
What's getting you excited about this year?
It does feel like we're in our new normal. It feels like last year, with the horizon of which we were doing things just completely shrunk, and we weren't looking too far down the road at all because we just didn't know how's the world going to be. You know, in the middle of a pandemic, it seemed quite very hard to look terribly far down the road. Whereas now it feels like, okay, now we know how we're going to operate as a society as well as an organisation, where our people are returning to the office. We were almost 100% remote for most of last year. Now we're back in the office 2 or 3 days a week. So we're getting to work differently, bring back some old school whiteboarding and coffees and lunches and things with teammates, which is super exciting. And it's almost like a slight surprise how much we missed it. But that's good. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about what we're doing with our Cancer Information Support Services team. It's a really big change for them, and we've worked really hard for a long time on the design and the requirements, and we're about to start build. So that's a super exciting place to be, where we're like, yeah, we know the value that you can achieve and the scope of what you want us to do, and now we can get about building it. So that's really cool too. And I think what we're doing with research is pretty cool too. So they'll probably be my top 3.
That was Frances Waterford, the Chief Information Officer at Cancer Council New South Wales. And that's the podcast for this week. We'll be back with an exciting new interview next week. Until then, you can catch all the latest headlines in Australian IT over at iTnews.com.au.